Greetings, Generals, and welcome to my Ultimate General Civil War Union campaign. This campaign is being fought on Major General Light difficulty using the JMP Rebalance Mod version 1.29.1. This is the Battle of Distress Call. It is the first battle in your campaign. You start the campaign and you fight capture the train station, but this is the first battle that you actually set up for, and it's in the first Bull Run campaign. We'll fight the Battle of Distress Call and then move on to first Battle of Bull Run. Capture the train station is an intense little battle. It is a lot bigger battle than the opening CSA battle in the CSA campaign at Potomac Fort, and you can see I was pretty badly outnumbered. The CSA brought in almost 17,000 infantry to face against my almost 11,000. I did have more guns than they did, but now my force was split. It has to come in from different directions, so it's an interesting little battle. I did not get the full clear. I inflicted a lot of casualties, but definitely didn't get the full clear. Now, you can see that the points that I got 2 points, and I put one in medicine and one in reconnaissance. The reconnaissance, even though I'll still be taking a hit because I'm at 2, not 4, it will help with some weapons recovery for these next 2 battles. And I put one in medicine because, especially on the Union side, the fastest way to experience units, I think, is training in medicine. And the Union forces, the recruits, the way the game is set up, they're not as they don't have average stats as high as the CSA recruits early on. You have more recruits, but they're not as good early on until you make them as good. So that is where we're at on the career points. I will have to use the 1 career point from Distress Call into Army Organization, because for first Bull Run as the Union, you take in 10 brigades. So you're going to have that 3rd point in AO to get the 3rd division so that you can take in your 10 brigades. Now the Army set up for the Union, I did something a little different. With the CSA, a lot of the times I disband everybody and then build all new units with the goal of having every unit having a 1-star perk before Bull Run. Problem is even with the veterans, and I played with this camp quite a bit, I could not make that happen. There was just no way right off the bat here for me to generate 8 units with a star. In fact, the best that I did was I got 5 units with a star, and honestly, I start out with 4 with a star, so disbanding veteran units to only pick up 1 extra perked unit just did not seem like a reasonable trade-off for me. So I have sat and watched part of Gonzo Gamers, or I did watch Gonzo Gamers' video on Distress Call, and it was from, I think, version 1.28.4. And one of the things he did was replaced all of his commanders. And I know there's a lot of players that are like, but once they get a commander in there, they don't want to move them, because you do get that battles led bonus. However, at this point, if I'm going to change commanders, it's a good time to, and I change commanders a lot on my CSA campaigns, trying to generate stars, because I consider a star more important than a battles led bonus, as long as it doesn't take a star away from a unit. So let's take a look at what I've done. So when you get 3 infantry brigades and a artillery brigade from the Battle of Capture the Train Station, you get Walton, Loomis, Scales, and then Woods' artillery. And unfortunately, Walton got wounded, so his brigade came in as a 1-star. It's normally supposed to be a 2-star, but he was wounded. A lieutenant colonel was commanding it. But what I did was, I took John Gibbon with the rep points. I bought John Gibbon with the rep points and gave him the division. Then I went into the barracks and I bought Brewster, and he was one of the highest, or he was the highest ranking colonel available in the barracks, and I bought him. He's an 88 level colonel. I put him in Walton's brigade, which immediately gave it its 2nd star, and I gave it a melee perk. And then I renamed that the 1st U.S. Infantry, and I'll go over how I'm naming here in just a minute. Then Wagner, who was the division commander, I gave him Scales Brigade, and was able to add a few recruits, and I gave it Mississippi Rifles, or it might have had Mississippi Rifles, I can't remember. And that brigade stayed at 61, or is at 61. And then Brooks, who I bought with out of the barracks. I gave him Loomis's brigade and gave it recruits, and it's at 34. And so I did this for a reason. I have a 2-star. These units are both well on their way to 2-star, and I thought that would be the fastest way to build these to 2-stars. I left Woods alone. Woods is a brigade here, is a 1-star, and it is at 54, so it's over halfway to its 2nd star, and I named it the 1st United States Artillery. I took Scales and made him the 2nd Division commander, and then I gave Loomis a brigade of recruits. I bought Custer from the barracks and gave him a brigade of recruits. I bought Woods from the barracks and gave him a brigade of recruits. And then Barnes was the colonel who was in command of Walton's brigade when it came into camp. So, a little bit about my naming, just so that you understand when you're watching the video and you see my camp. All right. When I create a new unit, if it doesn't have a perk, it's the volunteers. So you can see, or it's a volunteer unit. So you can see here, Loomis has the 1st New Jersey Volunteers. Custer has the 1st Connecticut Volunteers. Wood here has the 1st Michigan Volunteers, and Barnes has the 1st Ohio Volunteers. Now, the 1st U.S. Artillery up here has a perk. They have a horse perk, but I don't name artillery units by their perk like I will cavalry and infantry. For artillery units, I name them by their guns. So 1st U.S. Artillery, when I see artillery, I know that it is a 12-pounder Napoleon. If it says 1st U.S. Light Artillery, it's 6-pound field guns. If it said 1st U.S. Light Howitzers, then it's the 12-pound howitzer. 1st U.S. Howitzers would be 24-pound howitzers. 1st U.S. Rifles would be either 10-pound Parrots or 3-inch ordnance rifles. And then 1st U.S. Heavy Rifles would be 20-pounder Parrots or anything bigger than, say, the regular rifles. Now, Blakely's, James rifles, they would just be rifles. Now, for cavalry, if I give them the mounted infantry perk, they would be the 1st Michigan Mounted Infantry. If I give them a melee perk, I would just simply call them Cav. They'd be the 1st Michigan Cav. Or I could give them the scouting perk, and they'd be the 1st Michigan Scouts. And then infantry, very similar. See how the 1st New York and the 1st Pennsylvania are called rifles? The 1st Pennsylvania Rifles, 1st New York Rifles. This tells me they have an accuracy perk at Tier 1. If I had chosen to give them a melee perk, then I would call them the Line. So if I had given the 1st Pennsylvania a melee perk, that'd be the 1st Pennsylvania Line. I did not create any melee perked infantry because I didn't have any melee perked weapons. All of the weapons I have available that were in my armory or that I was able to get with the rep buys are low melee. And then you have the 1st U.S. Infantry. 1st U.S. Infantry has an accuracy perk at Tier 1, but I gave them the melee perk at Tier 2. When I mixed perks, that's when I call them infantry. So this tells me when I look at a map, I can see the 1st U.S. Infantry, and I know that 1st U.S. Infantry has mixed perks. They're a balanced unit. If, when I was giving them their 2nd star, when I threw Brewster in there, if I wanted them to be a straight up just rifle accuracy shooter, if I'd have gave them the 2nd rifle perk at Tier 2, then they'd be the 1st U.S. Rifles. And so I see rifles, even though they're 2-star, I know they're just a shooting unit. And so infantry is mixed perks, and it doesn't matter which one they have first. So I could create a line unit and call them line, but at Tier 2, if I give them an accuracy perk at Tier 2, then they would become infantry because they have an accuracy perk and a melee perk. And so that's the way I plan to play this campaign. I'm also doing a CSA campaign, and I am doing it the exact same way. And in fact, my goal, and I don't know if I'll be able to duplicate it here, at least early in the campaign, but in the CSA campaign, I'm up to Malvern Hill, and I'm working toward my goal of in every division having a double a balanced perk, a double rifle, and a double line. That's my goal in that CSA, and I'd like to do that here if it works out weapons wise, but I'm going to have to start getting some higher melee weapons in order to make it work in this campaign. So that's kind of an overview of where we're at. I hope some of these units can gain some perks. Unfortunately, I do have some colonels here, and I got another general. So when I create the 3rd division, maybe I can get that general in there. Maybe a couple of these colonels will be enough to bump a couple of these units up to try to get some more perks. I'd love to have everybody perked going into Bull Run, but don't know if I'm going to be able to make that happen. So let's jump into Distress Call. Alright, so you can see here they have 12,673 attackers. There's 5,150 allied forces. So when I add my 8 brigades in here, I actually have them slightly outnumbered. Unfortunately, that's not going to be as helpful as you might think, because they probably have me out veteran. I bet they have some veteran units coming, but we'll see. It says our supply depot is in danger of being overrun by rebels. The vanguard of your army move quickly to reinforce it. Confederate forces approach from this direction. And this road. We've got a few skirmishers to send in order to delay them. You have at your disposal the small garrison of the supply depot. Surely not enough men to withstand all those enemies heading toward us. But the rest of your forces will not take long to arrive and join the defense. Today you can win a glorious victory for yourself. Hold your ground, General. Alright, so Alright, so here is what I'm going to do. I watched, like I said, I did watch Gonzo Gamer's version. And one of the things he did was backed his force up into the woods here and waited. And I'm going to kind of do that too. But he did something else that I had never thought of. And it's how he deploys the allied forces. And one thing I am going to tell you is that this skirmisher over here, while this would be a great defensive position if you had more map, because he is right there at the edge and all of a sudden the CSA is just going to appear right in his face, not a good place to stay. So first thing I'm going to do is get him out of here. So let's hit pause, and this will end the music, and I've got the game paused. So I'm going to get him back. Alright, and what I noticed Gonzo Gamer do here is that he gets all of his allied forces up to the north to try to hold off that initial attack. And so I'm going to kind of do the same thing. I'm going to back my guys up into the woods, and I'm hoping that I don't back up into Union cavalry, because there is not Union cavalry. I'm so used to playing the CSA campaign. I'm hoping that I don't back up into CSA cavalry, because there is a chance that there could be some CSA cavalry back here. So actually I'm going to send these skirmishers a little deeper than I might otherwise, just for that possibility. Now, I'm going to take these 4 infantry brigades and kind of get them ready to defend. Let's see, let's get kind of across here. There we go. And I'm going to bring this cavalry back this way. Did I already tell this skirmisher to come back? Yes, I did. Alright, and I am going to put all of these skirmishers in this fort here, in this top one. And hopefully when my force arrives, we will be able to deal with I'm going to use this cavalry to sweep here. I'm trying to make sure. Yep, there it is. I knew it. Okay. Alright. So now I have to deal with this cavalry, which I was hoping I wouldn't have to. Okay. Looks like they're going to flank. Alright, here comes the rest of my reinforcements in. The rebels are too many, but your soldiers arrive just in time. Advance and secure the depots. Alright, so I'm going to give them a minute to get in so that I can get them going where I want them to. You can see here that I'm shifting Wagner over here to help Richard's 1st and 2nd Brigade. Now, I will also tell you something else about the way I play. I guess you might want to, don't move. Call it house rules. And you know, the great thing about the way this game is set up is that you can play how you want to. I don't like to play with unit splits, okay? So I actually will go into the config file and turn off unit splits. It prevents your opponent from getting unit splits, but it also prevents your allied forces from getting unit splits. So I do realize I'm probably about to lose the top one there, but I realize that. I'll get it back. I hate it when I do stuff like that. Alright, here we go. out of the fort. How are we doing down here? About the same. I don't know if we're going to get any extra time here. I've kind of waited too late to try to make a run for those supplies, probably, if it's going to end. And it ended. Dang, I've waited too late to make a run for the supplies. Wow, 3,543 casualties. How many of them are mine? Yep, 1,400. That's 1,300. About 50. Yeah. Alright. So, did not get a full wipe. I know that's going to start affecting me. I inflicted a lot of casualties, and inflicted twice as many as I took, but that's still going to start affecting me here. Oh no, Brewster. So one of those senior generals colonels that I had to have, it has been wounded. Not a lot of weapons recovery. Got some reboards. I had some reboards, so that ought to help with one additional unit. So let's take a look at our units here. We'll go Union, infantry only, and Wagner lost 326. Okay, Woods and Ridge. Okay, those are not mine. Brewster was mine. Loomis was mine. Brooks was mine. Custer was mine. Alright, well, let's head to camp and see where we're at. Except. Alright, so it doesn't look like anybody got perked. Of course, 1st U.S. Infantry is hurting right now because Brewster got wounded. I'm going to have to get a colonel in there to boost them back up to 2 stars. Career point's going to have to go to Army Org. And there's my 3rd Division. So, at this point, I will get it rebuilt and get it ready for the first Battle of Bull Run. That was the Battle of Distress Call. Thank you for watching.